Welcome to another episode of Growing Ecommerce. I'm your host, Mike Ryan, and with me is co-host
Chris.
Chris. Just Chris. Chris.
That's great, man. I'm tired of introducing myself.
All right, Mike and Chris. Yeah. If
Mike
if
and
you
Chris.
if you know us, you know us. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome.
And then it's your fault that you don't know us.
Yeah, why did you should have got in at the ground floor. You know, no, this podcast is there's a lot. We're still on the ground floor. You're not too late to join the podcast.
Oh, no, no. And we
But
always stay on the ground, but at least
no, we're
mentally,
not
right?
staying on.
No, mentally. We are grounded people. That's what I
Okay.
mean.
Yeah, like Jeff Bezos, it's always day one or day zero or whatever he
Oh,
says. Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, cool. So, Chris, you are freshly returned from DMEXCO in beautiful
Yes.
Cologne, Germany.
Cologne. Yes. And it was a blast. It was a blast, I can tell you. So yeah, the setup today somehow different. Honestly, I miss mate sitting face to face with you, but I think it will be a good anyway.
Yeah,
A good one.
we'll get back together in the office one time soon. So, yeah, and that's that's like a 7 hour train ride each way, right?
Yes,
Um,
I went by train. Because I mean the thing is probably nothing new to a lot of people, but if you really look at the net travel time, train is right up there with going by plane, and the huge difference is you can really be productive for probably 6 hours straight, 6.5 hours straight. And I really needed this time because I needed to do some prep. I had two talks at the convention this year. You were part of the prep, so you you know better than me. So I really enjoyed the train ride,
yeah,
and the convention itself was a good one. Yeah, it's just a huge contrast to the OMR,
yeah,
which becomes more and more uh, a festival. Yeah, probably
yeah,
online marketing rock stars. It's just different to the Mexico. On average, older people, I think more decision makers, as I see it, and I think the content across the board is just a bit, I don't know, maybe a bit more mature.
hmm
Uh, Nothing to take away from the OMR. I love being there,
yeah,
but it feels different. It feels
yeah.
different.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's not familiar, I bet if people are familiar with one of these, it's DMEXCO because I think that's achieved a better international recognition at this
Yes,
point. Where I think
yes.
OMR it's huge. Of course, it's like super massive, but it's more German.
And the question is if the OMR became too successful. If there's such a thing, it's so big
Mm,
that probably too big. The Mexico is big. Don't get me wrong, but it feels you know where to go. You know more who is here. It's it's
yeah,
just it's just more manageable, also mentally and cognitively. One thing which stood out this year, I think it has been that way for the last couple of years, but it becomes more and more an international convention. So
yeah,
English speaking talks are just really popping up more and more, which is a good and a bad thing because I still feel that most of the crowd is non-English native,
hmm
which sometimes probably makes it harder to really transport the message as powerful as you could probably in German. But that's also something which stood out this year that it's really they're driving for an international flavor. Uh, yeah.
Well, Chris, as a native English speaker, I have to tell you, it's part of our secret conspiracy to exert hegemony through linguistic dominance and squashing local cultures.
Go for it, mate. I love talking in English. Also knowing that I'm not on the same levels as I'm with my beloved German, but no, it's good. And honestly, because I had one talk in English and one in German, as crazy as it sounds, but especially talking about e-commerce related topics, sometimes it feels easier to talk about it in English.
Mm,
So yeah, I'm fine with it. But I love
yeah.
the conspiracy. It could be a topic for one of our Christmas episodes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Special episode.
Um, before we go, I'm tempted to go down rabbit hole here, but
Not yet, Mike.
we're
Not
far
yet.
enough down the rabbit hole. So, yeah, we want to talk about one of those presentations that you gave.
Hmm?
So you were on one of the big stages. You had a crowd of about 600 plus people. Did that? that feel all right, Chris?
Man, I can remember because to the listeners, ladies and gents, last year Mike was on this big stage, and I listened very carefully to Mike, and I just felt like, dude, this guy is sharp up there. So I had a lot of pressure on me this year, but it's probably one of the biggest stages I've been on. It felt super professional, and the crazy thing, Mike, that's what you told me, by the way, and it's really it became real once you're up there. It doesn't feel that big anymore. You zoom in on a certain area of the crowd, and so it really felt fucking awesome. Yeah, it was really a very great experience, and a shout out to the DMEXCO team. They really did a great job here.
Well, thanks for sharing that experience with us, Chris. And I'm like, talk to us about your presentation. What were I mean, we worked on some of this together, and
Yes.
but I want to share this with the audience. And yeah, I also I didn't get to see you give the talk, so I really want to hear your perspective on some of this. I'll share mine as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's have an open conversation about it. So, by the way, thanks again, Mike, for helping me out with the content and storyline. Um, by the way, for me, when I'm on stage, the one thing I'm always looking for the most is indications or indicators that people are engaging, and there are a lot of things you can look at, and the most probably objectively uh, um, um, observable indication is certainly taking out the phone and taking pictures of something which you really want to have a look at on your own in the aftermath.
Yeah.
And this lecture, we knew it, Mike, that we had some bold statements in there. We talk about them in a minute, but it was really one of the most engaged presentations I had in quite some while, which I loved. And the reason I think is because we were quite bold about our view um, on the future of e-commerce. In particular, what will be going on in the field of paid search, Google paid search, um, and our statements shook some. Led to some shaking heads, some big eyes, and that's what we wanted, right? We wanted to create some thought processes, and I think that's what we achieved. And maybe that's a good segue, mate, to jump right into it.
Yeah, sure.
What so, okay, Mike, our our point or our point of view on the future of e-commerce. So basically, I started with some clarifying statements on or about the hypothesis that Google search, the core product of Google, is cooked. You can remember, Mike, it was even a topic in one of our episodes that,
Mm,
especially, by the way, shame on me. I was quite critical and bearish on Google in the mid and long term because we were missing the AI strategy. How do they embed it into their search product?
mm,
Perplexity and ChatGPT, these new disruptive players, and there were some legit threats out there. Now, fast forward a couple of months, I think there's no need to fear for Google's dominance. They are as strong as ever. And what I basically shared in my talk is the reasons why they are so strong. So their core product, which is paid search, crossed another 56 billion in Q2
mm.
this financial year for Google, which is a whooping roughly 12% year-over-year growth. I mean, this is always the crazy thing, right? You cross 50 north of 50 billion with the product, and you still grow double digits year-over-year. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah,
It's
it truly
completely.
is. It truly is. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we talked about that before. Like we just, me too. I think if you rewind it, at first it seemed like Google was very flat-footed, and they had all this, I think, code yellow or whatever they called it at the beginning, and then Bard was a big swing and a miss. But I think they've largely quelled a lot of that, and revenues are still up. Um, and meanwhile, if we've talked about Perplexity on this podcast before too, but it's been about a year since they talked about rolling out ads. It's also been quite some time since they talked about integrating shopping, building up their
Yes.
own merchant center and stuff like that. And meanwhile, they've gone through at least one. chief of their ad unit, and maybe a second one, I can't remember for sure, but
Mhm.
it's like, oh wait, it's not that easy to just spin up an ad network out of nothing and take off the ground.
What a
Um,
surprise.
yeah, and then meanwhile, Google executes and they come through strong,
Yes.
um, with Gemini 2.5 onward.
Yeah,
But
it's yes. Gemini is just. I mean, by the way, and this is one of the major reasons why Google keeps growing in the core revenue. By the way, search makes up for around, I don't know, 60% of overall Google revenue. So this is the thing for them,
yeah.
and they just found their mojo. And one reason why they found the mojo is because I think the initial pressure everyone thought um, to be there with regards to Google, created by Perplexity, created by ChatGPT, these players were just not as fast as we all thought they might be.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, like you said, Google executed their strategy extremely well. I think they do it very cautiously. We can talk about that in a second. And another thing, and this is probably, Mike, we talked about this, that just there's of course there are companies which are too big to fail, right? From a perspective that governments would never let companies die. But you can have a different look at it. Google is just too big to fail in the eyes of the consumer. They're just so deeply embedded in our daily life. And I shared this one stat during my talk. There are 5.8 trillion. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, because you came up with the numbers. 5.8 trillion search queries.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
uh,
upward of 5 trillion. Yeah.
5 trillion globally, and whooping 90% go through Google. So
Yeah.
this,
Oh yeah, yeah.
how to overcome this? It's absolutely it's crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, I
so
see.
Google
Yeah,
is
I think Google's 5 out of 5.8 or something like that. It's nuts.
nuts.
Um,
It's
I,
completely nuts.
I mean, and by the way, so you shared some data about that, like some pretty new data from OpenAI, about
Yes.
how people are using ChatGPT. Um, and I'm just gonna, I'm looking at the numbers here. Like you had, so one of the categories that people use it for, they're basically seeking information. And this is this kind of classic Google-ish use
You
case.
compare it. Yes. Mhm.
That's really the
Yeah.
Google search part
Yeah.
of ChatGPT. And of course, there's some other behaviors that get mixed in some other buckets, but we see this seeking information behavior is 21.3% of
Mhm.
ChatGPT usage, so just
Mhm.
over a fifth,
Mhm.
which shows you how much broader I think
Yes.
ChatGPT is. Like people talk about it as taking on search, but it really is a different kind of thing because people are using it for way other use cases too. But then of that, you know, of that, we can also see how much of this information seeking is related to purchasable products, and that's 2.1% of all of ChatGPT's
Well,
usage. So how do you,
roughly 7-8% of these 20% information seeking search queries. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, how do you interpret that, Chris?
Look, I mean, I had some conversations after the talk. Is this good or bad? Before we can talk about it, is this good or bad? I think the more important thing is also to our listeners to understand if you look at Google and the ecosystem of Google, I think Google, of course, they're caring about the market share of overall search volume because this is the foundation for everything else. But at the end of the day, Mike, it's all about the buying intended search queries. This is where the money is made,
Mm,
and that's another reason why Google keeps going strong because the share of overall search queries on the Google platform with buying intent stays around these 14 and 15%. So they grow the overall search volume, and the share of buying intended search queries stays the same. And this is the money printing search queries everyone is looking for. And if you compare the 14 to 15% to, let's say, a normalized 7 to 8% on the ChatGPT side, if you compare really search queries with search queries, then you can see that this is another massive advantage Google has. There's just more buying intent in everything you look for on Google. However, however, I think these 7 to 8% happening now in this information seeking search query cluster on ChatGPT, I think it's already significant enough uh, and for me, it's clearly the next step that ChatGPT will start monetizing on this because they have to reduce their burn rate.
Yeah.
Uh, and this is my question I have to you, Mike. I mean, what are there any, and what will the strategy look like with regards to ChatGPT in terms of a paid search product? What's your take on it? And maybe also let's talk about some timelines from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. It's a volume that you can't just shrug off anymore. I think it's, it probably makes, I don't know about Perplexity's volumes, but it's probably a lot bigger than what Perplexity is doing is my gut feeling here. But what you mentioned paid search, like there are two kind of sides to this. There's a whole advertising side, and then there's also like an e-commerce side, and then those two can of course intersect. And on the advertising side, we don't have a huge amount of details. We know that they, I think we talked about in the past, but they released some new financial models about monetizing non-subscribers. And so how do you monetize non-subscribers? Well, that must be advertising. And I think the latest rumors I'm hearing are that that could happen in this quarter, in Q4 of
Wow.
2025.
Wow.
They could start piloting that, but let's see. And we'll also see if they can move things along a little bit faster than Perplexity did with their attempts at advertising. Um, but then the other part of the other half of this is e-commerce, and there have been some leaked documents or conversations, or there's suggestions coming out that they might go with a commission-based model, and
Okay.
so there, of course, these two things can intersect. Like basically, if the AI is someone is searching for very like specific recommendations on running shoes or whatever the case might be. The AI is going to surface things from its knowledge and understanding and the research that it does online. Um, and then you can, if there's a checkout embedded in the chat, then you can potentially pay a commission to receive that. And another possibility here is that they can also um, inject product listings too on top of that. So for the people who are not surfacing, they can pay for that extra visibility.
Paper.
So these two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but we could be looking at like buy boxes and sponsored listings side by side. I think they're absolutely interested in bringing structured data into, not just depending on the the kind of the all the unstructured data out there in the web. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Interesting, yeah. And by the way, this was also probably the elephant we addressed in the room that because to the listeners out there, what we see right now is that Google is I think they have their mojo back with their AI strategy. I think AIOs is a fucking great product. Um, AI mode, great product. But everything what they ship right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but is on the playing field of, let's say, organic search. And the organic search, as important it is, it's just it's not part of the core revenue stream. So I think they have a playing field here. They can test out a lot of things. And uh, here, if you look at this closely, that's was one of our statements during the talk is if you look at this closely, you can see how disruptive these new AI-based products can be.
Mm.
Because AIOs are the one big signal of things to come because these AIOs are producing zero-click events in masses. I just
Yeah.
don't need to go to a publisher's website anymore. So this one product disrupts a whole industry, which is well, content creators, publishers, and you see it by the backed by the data that clicks are just going down while the impressions are up. And the big question, Mike, will be when will be the step towards or into the paid search field where AI-based products like shopping assistants, something similar, will massively disrupt the I
Mm.
don't know, the e-commerce workflow as we know it right
Yeah.
now, that you have a click, someone goes to your website, you build some relation with the client, he buys on your website. What is your take on this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you said, like, I mean, people have been complaining about zero click phenomena from Google, and formats and what like SERP features on the search engine result page for years. It's not new, but it's massively accelerated. And
Mhm.
Google denies that there's a problem, but they also contradict themselves. And um, I think there's clearly a problem on the organic side in terms of informational queries, but you like we were looking at data from eMarketer together. I guess it's actually from SimilarWeb via eMarketer or whatever, but so you were presenting this too on stage where so far that traffic decline, that organic traffic decline is not being seen in e-commerce. It really seems limited more to informational queries, not toward these commercial search funnels. Um, but there are also signs that that's starting to change bit by bit. And uh, I think with AI mode, that's where that can happen
Yes.
even a lot more because Google decides um, if they're going to show an AI overview or not for a given query. And that's what's happening in the classic search engine result page. But AI mode is an alternative, and Google can't really like it's a bit different. It's much more like ChatGPT, and the user is in much more control there and interacting much more with the AI. My impression and understands that there's less mediation by Google there.
Mhm.
And so I think people can use AI mode however they want. I've been using ChatGPT as a shopping assistant for
Me
a
too.
couple of years, even though it's not specifically built that way, but it's a sandbox.
Yes.
And then the question is, do they then start to build features to really support that use case, to detect and support that use case, which ChatGPT has already begun doing, and they've been doing it for months now, and Google can start doing this as well. And like you said, that starts to then disrupt the classic e-commerce funnel and relationship. At least through search, and that has existed so far.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, the one thing which will probably be highly disrupted is um which mechanics um, will apply in order to be able to push your product to be shown, right?
Mm.
Because the AI mode, which is Gemini powered, I guess, I assume, they 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 will crawl also all the organic
Yeah.
content. It will the whole mechanic how to push your product will probably change,
Mm.
and the biggest change from my perspective, from my humble opinion, is of course if let's say ChatGPT and you made a convincing statement that there are already leaked documents that there will be also kind of a buy-in app possibility so that I don't have to go to a website anymore. Perplexity also claimed that they are going down this route. What if Google is, you know, giving a buy on Google another
Yeah.
try?
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't land well in France 5 years ago,
Yeah. They
but
tried
this
in the US as well. It was a
and yes
disaster
as
in
well.
both markets. Yeah.
Okay, but this for me, Mike, elaborate on this to all the listeners who run or own a web shop. This is
Yeah.
the one thing which I really thought about long and hard because this changes everything fundamentally. If I'm just a warehouse for Google,
Yeah.
let's get provocative here.
I know. And yeah, I mean, buy on Google was this attempt. They had it next to standard product listing ads in Google search results. There would also be um, these little units. They looked functionally identical, but when you clicked on it, instead of going to the e-commerce website, there would be this chance to just buy it right there, and then you would pay a commission on it. So it's similar to what we were just talking about with ChatGPT.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a bit like a buy box type unit or something like this in Amazon. And that was a total disaster. It was rejected by the market. Like they were for a while. You could see growth numbers there, and it had kind of linear growth, but very slow growth,
Okay.
and it was just flatlining. And then they even took the commission away, and they couldn't get people to do this for free.
Wow.
Like it was
Wow.
it was free. They were and but
Which,
that's not the relationship that people
yes.
wanted to have with Google. They would rather pay to have that traffic come on their website where they can own it from there and bring it in their CRM and gather their first party data and all this stuff.
Yes.
Um, and now the question is like, is Google's kind of market power strong enough, or is this there's just different factors. Is this perceived differently enough that people are willing or going to have a different expectation, or
Yeah.
it's considered so high value that they want to be there, or they don't have a choice, but it's just like you said. I mean, I think I'm kind of like I think when we're this phrase we're maybe stealing a bit from our friend Stefan Wenzel. He's been on this podcast before, by the way. Um, but I heard a paraphrase of Stefan from K5, another German conference earlier this year, and maybe I just connected the dots here, but like he- back in the days, everyone talked about these big box retailers like Best Buy and whoever as
Mhm.
Amazon's showroom,
Mhm. Yeah.
and people shoppers would go in a store and they'd pick out what they want and then they'd buy it online cheaper. And now you are like ChatGPT's warehouse. Like people find what they need on ChatGPT or in AI mode. And then you just end up fulfilling that order, and it's much more low value, transactional.
Transactional, not relational.
Yeah,
Relationship. And like I said, this is probably the most because yeah, I mean the change from a CPC model to a commission model that itself would be quite fundamental. But
yeah,
that change that I buy on Google and I don't care anymore where I buy it because Google becomes this marketplace. Um, for retailers, it's I mean, probably not the brightest future, honestly speaking. But at the end of the day, Mike, this is what I mean. I didn't tackle it during my talk because I only had roughly 20 minutes. But what I thought about is, yes, for now we see Google search keep going strong. And like I said, I think we were wrong that the threats are so massive that we see any disruption in numbers whatsoever.
mm,
But one thing which I was thinking about is at the end of the day, Google is the best product in the world because it drives client value.
yeah,
And I'm talking about you and me as people who are using Google for information seeking queries, buying intent search queries, whatsoever. If Perplexity or ChatGPT can make this just a little bit better, because you really get a better results and have a leaner shopping experience because you can buy directly in the app.
yeah,
I assume Google will have to follow in a certain degree. That's why we made the statement, ladies and gents, that it's not a question of if this will happen, meaning that there might be this commission model, that there might be this that the CPC model gone, that there might be this buy on Google. It's rather a when.
yeah,
Because ultimately it will be about the value they create for the end consumer, right? And that's you and me and all the others.
yeah,
What's your take on that, Mike?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that I don't think that this is a zero sum game. I don't think that like AI shopping assistants will rise to 100% of the market or something like that. um, just like e-commerce. E-commerce hasn't risen to 100% of the retail market, and it never will. And then as a subset of e-commerce, shopping assistants are never going to reach 100% of the market because there are things where, like, the fact is, some people like to browse, they like to look at things on their own, they like to visit different brands, and it depends what category you're buying in. So even like there are going to be just different demographic preferences. There's going to be, even within demographics, different category preferences. But I definitely expect that we're going to see this old school model, let's call it, of people visiting e-commerce websites. It's going to start to go into a form of secular decline. And that's definitely bad for big retailers too, because big retailers have been meanwhile building up whole propositions about the amount of volume they have on their website, spinning out their own marketplaces. There's been a huge proliferation of marketplaces, then spinning out retail media networks on top of
Retail,
that.
that's another thing. Retail media. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
marketplaces are highly threatened as a category,
Yes, yes,
more
yes.
so even than like I think marketplaces very threatened, retailers
Yes.
moderately threatened, brands a little bit less threatened in my opinion. But um, it
But
all
I agree on that. I think the biggest threat right now are to any publishers because they are also already eating their lunch to a certain degree.
yeah,
If this It's not an if. When this buy, buy on Google will happen with different mechanics behind it. But these are the details then. But if this when this happens, I think you're right. Marketplaces they are in massive troubles. Multi-brand online stores probably second. The brands are to a certain degree safe because I think they have more direct traffic and there's a stronger relationship by design. So yeah, I co-sign
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, brands, it becomes part of this D2C versus
Yes.
distribution thing. And
Yes.
D2C was very hyped for a while, but even the D2C purists realized that you can't ignore distribution and the Amazon is a channel,
Nike. Ask
ChatGPT will be a channel. What's
yeah,
that?
ask Nike.
Ask Nike.
They
Yeah, yeah. We
learned
talked
it the
about
hard
this.
way. Yeah.
We talked
Yeah.
about this in a previous episode. So I think for brands, this becomes another channel, and maybe it's not the best development in the world, but it's probably not the worst either. That's my maybe naive take on it, but um, you know,
Crazy developments ahead of us, that's for sure.
yeah.
We will
But
monitor it closely.
yeah, for
That's
sure. I
also.
mean, retailers and marketplaces, they serve a comparison function. It's a part of what they do, and so for them, it's probably not going to be as much fun. But
Mm. That's.
we're getting a little tight on time, Chris. You want to show?
I think we covered the most important things, honestly speaking. It's a fast. I mean, look, I mean, I would love to discuss this another 60 minutes or another 30 minutes. It's a fascinating topic, and yeah, I'm just so curious what's going to happen. I mean, yeah, ChatGPT, how crazy would that be, right? If something significant, I don't know, news are shipped in Q4. Because
Mhm.
again, Google is playing on its own terms right now, and rightfully so, and they played perfectly, step by step, incrementally, not interfering with the paid search product. But the reason why they can play it so safely is because ChatGPT and Perplexity, haven't had their home run moment. And what, let's say Q4, it will happen.
Yeah,
Then I think we even look at the way bigger dynamic. So it's crazy times we live in.
yeah, for sure. I mean, the like, it's just not a given. It's yeah, it's very impressive how fast ChatGPT has grown. But Google has this critical mass,
Yeah.
and they're not even like they're like one of the super massive black hole around which this whole galaxy is spinning, and
Uh,
um, and
they are
it,
here to stay. They're here to stay.
it's going to take a lot to change that dynamic.
A
And
lot.
it'll be a matter of years, but
The cool thing is, and that's what I'm personally very happy about is and we talked about this. Even if the threats are not as big as we might thought in the first place, um, at the end of the day, the end consumer will benefit the most. And that's a cool thing. Google is forced to innovate way more fundamentally now
mm,
compared to, let's say, 10 years ago. And this is a great thing because Google is, let's face it, one of the greatest companies on this planet. And great innovations will happen. It will disrupt some businesses, that's for sure. Uh, Another thing for sure, Mike, we will have a lot of things to talk about in this podcast.
for sure. Yeah, the whole ecosystem will need to evolve. But let's leave it on that note. Thanks,
So,
Chris,
Mike,
for sharing.
cheerio.
Yep, sharing your DMEXCO experiences with us, and yeah, we'll see you all next time. So yeah, let's do a little outro then. This
That's on you, mate.
okay. So you know what? You're gonna have to take over some duties here too, man.
I will. I
I
will on
can't
one
carry
point.
the weight of the world on my shoulders here. Intros and outros. All right. So thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Growing Ecommerce. Growing Ecommerce is brought to you by Smarter Ecommerce. You can learn more over at smarter-ecommerce.com. And as always, please remember to share this podcast with your friends, your family, if you think they'd be interested. Leave us
Hey, why not?
leave us a review. Give us a star rating. We really appreciate it. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.